Hello, and welcome to Abaddon Asylum Week, which absolutely isn't a real thing, but I like saying it because this week is a year since the Abaddon Asylum DLC came to Zombie Army 4. And what better way to celebrate that anniversary than dragging in some of the developers who worked on the mission to play through the entire thing with me, talk about some of the design decisions, talk about the art, and just overall lots of fun development chat. If you're unaware, Flix Interactive had the absolute privilege to be asked by our friends at Rebellion to develop some of the DLC missions for Zombie Army 4. So Season 2, Season 3 and Season 4, some of those with our very good friends at Radical Forge. Abaddon Asylum is the 8th post-launch DLC mission for Zombie Army, and you can pick it up piecemeal on its own or part of the Season 3 pass. And if you're yet to play Zombie Army 4, it's available pretty much wherever you can play games. So if you're on PC, you can get it via Steam or the Epic Game Store. You can pick it up on Xbox, on PlayStation, recently on Nintendo Switch. It's available on Google Stadia. I'm running out of fingers. If you're a Game Pass subscriber, it's on PC Game Pass and Xbox Game Pass. And even if you're only on mobile, you can play it via Xbox Cloud Streaming. So literally wherever you play games. Now, I would have loved to have pulled in every developer who worked on this, but that's unrealistic, and Zombie Army 4 only supports 4 players at a time. So big shout out to all the developers who worked on Abaddon Asylum, from Flix Interactive, from Radical Forge, and of course, from Rebellion. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing, and also following us on our other social channels. So on Twitter, Instagram, and on Facebook, we're at Flix Interactive. See you later. Okay, so we are playing Abaddon Asylum for the 1-year anniversary. I had this discussion with Joe the other day about the pronunciation of Abaddon. Do we all say Abaddon?
I remember at Games Workshop, there's a character in the Warhammer universe called Abaddon, and everyone would pronounce it Abaddon, but then apparently it's Abaddon, but then apparently it's Abaddon.
Yeah, so the voice actors in the game say San Abaddon.
Yeah.
But I say Abaddon. There's a wrestler called Abaddon, so I
also say Abaddon. Yeah.
Just go for that. Okay, so
also say Abaddon.
Okay, great. I'm glad we're all on the same page. We'll all say Abaddon.
I think it's a Berenstain Bears situation, maybe.
Yes.
I just can't believe we didn't say like Abaddon, all hope, all ye who enter. Surely it's written somewhere in blood on a wall.
Absolutely missed the trick. So we're all going to introduce ourselves. I'm Matt. I'm the community manager here at Flix. And I wasn't involved with the development of this game because it was released before I started with the company. So I'm going to pass it over to, let's start with you, Kenny, because you're stood right in front of me.
Oh, pressure. Cool. So I'm Kenny. I'm producer at Flix, and I was involved with the development of this content for Zombie Army 4. And all I did was run meetings and take notes and ask everyone what they were working on several times a day.
Oh, I'm sure you were far more important than that.
Oh, you. And I will pass swiftly on to Tom.
I'm Tom, lead designer at Flix. I was also very involved in the creation of these. It was kind of like, I guess, between Joe and I, a kind of horrifying brainchild creation. Yeah, so I feel somewhat responsible of the horrors that we're about to endure.
Fantastic. And Joe?
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Joe. I'm the art lead at Flix. Basically responsible for the visual side of the horrific things that we're about to witness. So kind of art and creative direction, that kind of thing.
I like that we're both sharing responsibility.
Of course. Okay, so we are going to play through the entire DLC, and we're going to hopefully be able to talk about some fun development stuff, some stories. I was going to say some secrets, but that's maybe.
Oh no, none of those.
Yeah, no secrets. Right. Okay, let's get going. I forgot to pick up any grenades or mines or anything, but
I mean, this might be my favourite painting in the game right here, just for I think it's Goering on the right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Right, so which one are you going to go to first, Joe?
I always hit this one on the left first, but
yeah, I feel like I naturally want to go left towards this checkpoint
let's do it.
section over here.
So the military checkpoint.
Yeah, that's the one.
Quite impressive, all the people who managed to crash these trucks in an open field.
Well, presumably they got attacked by a zombie.
That's true.
A zombie distracted them, and they.
Yeah. So what? Yeah, I suppose from a design level, we were trying to do quite a few different things with this season compared to the previous ones, and a big kind of impetus, again, design-wise, was trying to approach stuff a little bit more open world, kind of closer to the Sniper Elite 4 level we'd done. And
I
so
think
as a
you can
result
really
of
tell that. I think coming off of like Terminal Era felt super like open world, like non-linear, I guess, isn't it? It's like here's these objectives.
a single save room.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I guess we reduce even further in the following mission. But it's definitely a kind of interesting refresher as far as how we went about building the levels.
Yeah, so that was really deliberate, was it? As a okay.
Yeah, it was a lot of kind of trying to give the player a little bit more agency, and I guess one of the kind of extra bits with that is we ended up with levels that were significantly larger than things that we'd seen before. So it's kind of it was an interesting challenge, I think, to craft like a constant sense of like intensity when you have quite a large open world with quite a lot of kind of open space between things.
Yeah, that's interesting. I guess even when you've got such a large open space, you do have to kind of funnel the player into encounters, don't you?
Yeah, and we kind of want to make sure that if someone kind of goes off the beaten path, that there's something there that they can find that they feel rewarded in exploration as well.
I think it also was a case of kind of, because the best zombie fights, they're not random. We don't just spawn 10 zombies, say, okay, go kill them. It's very choreographed dance. And getting the players to kind of take the right position in the levels to play, the various sieges and things, without just going, we're going to spawn a whole bunch of invisible walls around you or smoke and things. It was very tricky, kind of like coaxing you to the place where you're going to have the most fun, essentially.
It's funny the amount of times we've played this, and then when we try and play it properly, having to remember how the game works. I think there's a difference between playing something that you're developing versus like, I'm in this to kind of immerse myself and have fun.
Oh, for sure.
It's like two very different things.
Well, as well as kind of a trap that you had to avoid as well, where you'd end up kind of, we'd play an awful lot of this game, so get quite good at it. And then you'd end up finding yourselves kind of tweaking the fights to be harder and harder and harder to compensate.
I've always been fascinated by that idea. Always wondered that about the development cycle of everything and presumably how everything.
You know where the
works.
zombies are going to come from, what kind they're going to be. Yeah. And how do you put yourself in that mindset of a player who's never experienced it before?
For sure.
I think that kind of that's not been as bad though, because we've got these DLC levels and we wanted to make sure that players who buy this DLC content, I mean, they've probably played the campaign, they're probably pretty good and they've unlocked a lot of things. So I think making sure that DLC is a challenge that they haven't really faced before was quite important.
I guess you assume that a lot of players who are investing in season passes and DLCs are the hardcore as well, aren't they? They're the people who want the challenge.
There's plenty of customization options, and I mean quite a lot of time went into sort of balancing numbers and making sure that it's a fulfilling experience regardless of kind of different difficulty levels and everything like that.
Sure.
Could it be? Why?
Okay, so that's one down. So how many of these points are there? 4 or 5?
5. Pentagram. See on the gate.
Of course it is.
So Joe, I remember this castle going through quite a lot of iteration as far as art was concerned, looking at it off in the distance.
So this was a really fun one. People who were Rebellion fans may recognise some of the references we put into a certain Sniper Elite level. And I mean, Zombie Army is this sort of great universe that's very campy and over the top, but also it is still a World War II era. It is a universe where all the characters fully believe what they're seeing, so it's not some... Exactly, they take it completely seriously. But one of the great things about the Zombie Army universe is we don't have to. Like, we can make this monastery that was based on a real place sort of 5 times the height. You put huge pentagrams and magical barriers and occult piles of skulls and candles, and we can do all of that fun stuff.
Ignore my boxes.
that's been a big one. We often had a lot of jokes about how many candles and skulls and pentagrams that we were placing around the place.
Who's lighting all these candles?
Exactly. Yeah.
So the themes of the DLCs that we worked on, was that Flix coming up with the like here's the what we're going to do thematically and then going from there, or we handed the.
I'd say it was very much a collaboration because we were building on the foundations that kind of the main campaign had set out, and I think there was a kind of high level plan as to where stuff was going to go in the long term with regards to the kind of Baron and stuff, but so they'd set up this foundation of kind of the refined blood and things and all the kind of quite Frankenstein-esque machinery and stuff underneath the Baron's castle. So it just felt natural to kind of explore that and kind of see, well, what are the cult up to now that you've defeated Hitler in the campaign? What's their kind of backup plan? Where do they go from there? Yeah, we definitely kind of proposed a lot of these kind of particular scenarios and locations and things. Remember, I've been fighting to put a dam in every game I've ever worked on.
They're always good.
Yeah,
Always
now
good.
at the studio. Yeah. Never failed me yet.
Whoa.
It's interesting because, like, at a surface level, I think you kind of look at this game and you go, oh, you're just shooting zombies and it doesn't really have much of a plot, and it actually couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah.
There's an incredibly, like, a surprisingly deep lore and a kind of logic to the way, like internal logic to the way things work in this universe. I mean, there's books released for what happens in this universe, so there's a lot of source material there that we can draw from.
But we did the what was it Frozen in Fear? That was taken from
Alpine Blitz.
Alpine Blitz, yeah, because that was very heavily influenced by one of the resistance locations
Novel.
mentioned in the books,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
And then kind
Absolutely,
of vice
yeah.
versa, the two kind of fed into each other a little bit. Yeah, it was great fun getting Major Wilkins and things in.
Yeah, because that's the thing, we had like a full breakdown of who Major Wilkins was, like, so you could kind of make him a little cabin in this resistance base and sort of decorate it in a way that would make sense for his character. It's always nice to have that kind of very specific source material.
Yeah, that's great to have that fiction. That I was going to say expanded universe, but it's not even really expanded universe, is it? It is the
But just
universe.
being able to bring in elements from other kind of sources and things like Major Wilkins, perfect example, and kind of
That's
bringing
fun.
that to life, hopefully matching kind of what players roughly had in their heads reading the books.
Yeah, and I think even players who have no idea who Major Wilkins is, they'll look around and they'll see some interesting, they'll see a book left on a shelf or something that talks about a certain thing, and they'll go, oh, okay, I get a sense that there's a bigger world. It's not just a kind of zombie murder simulator, although it is very good at that.
So I've been playing the Switch version recently because that just launched, and I've got to say the port job is absolutely amazing. Like,
They're absolute wizards getting it to run on that.
I
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
no idea how they did it. Yeah.
it is wizardry. It's incredible.
Kind of a cult magic, probably involving candles and a skull.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's amazing. And one of my favourite things about it, and I don't know if the PS4 version had this as well, but it's got gyro aiming with the Switch controller, and it's so good to like when you're looking down your scope to kind of just add a little bit on with your gyro, like just moving your hands, like to almost like a bit of a mouse aiming. It's so good. Love it.
I mean, that was one of the big sort of challenges for us, was like we're making these very large, expansive levels with quite a big variety of different visual styles, I guess you'd say. So there's always that worry of, are we going to run into memory limitations, and is that going to affect the kind of the quality of what we're putting together? So we had to do some
Never did.
we had to do some very kind of questionable, I guess questionable is the wrong word, some very kind of secretive behind-the-scenes bits to try and reuse content in a way that means that we can get something that looks visually very impressive.
I would say creative.
Creative,
That's,
yeah.
that's the word.
That's a good word.
remember, yeah, one particular thing that made it tricky is that a common thing we do is whenever you go into a safe room, we unload the area before, because you're never going back and things, so we can turn off things like lights and generators and all kind of expensive. Whereas with this level, because it's just one massive open area, or to be fair, two massive open areas, that then kind of halves the amount of kind of behind-the-scenes trickery you're able to do.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, the team really pulled together, though, and got it working despite...
Yeah, I would have never thought about that, but... Oh, summoning rift. Oh, I've run off on my own and summoned the horde completely
That's
solo.
always a good idea. It will never end badly if you do
Absolutely
that.
split the party.
Yeah.
I'll also say at this point, I think it's definitely worth mentioning out that we worked on this tremendous content, this Tunnel Error and Return to Hell. We worked on that alongside the guys at Radical Forge.
Likewise for Ragnarok.
Yeah, and yes, Ragnarok indeed, yeah. And it was great fun to work with them.
Awesome.
Just bringing more people into the fold and helping to sort of expand the level of creativity that we can get, and just just adding extra layers of depth that we can get into this with other people's ideas is very, very cool. And a couple of the guys were sort of fresh into the industry than others, and it was really cool to get their insight where it was just, hey, why don't we do this? And you never want to be dismissive of people new into the industry, and their ideas were really, really good. And I think it's kind of a testament to the fact that the industry itself is still developing, and the people who are finding themselves getting into the industry at this point are very much sort of coming into themselves. I would almost say at a faster rate than, without sounding too old, back when I started. There's a bloody hole in the floor. Who put that there?
There is a massive hole in the floor.
I'm coming.
Just remembering all the different starting places that we had for the siege. I think originally you'd kick this off in the center of the courtyard, then we started to raise you up and kind of turn it into more of a, I think, yeah, a design pillar that kind of came out when we were building this level was really a kind of the floor is lava situation.
Nice.
Evolved as kind of level came on.
Oh, it's really fun just like shooting down on a horde, like from above.
Yeah.
That's just a fun mechanic.
The image that always comes to mind is the Doom guy on, the cover art, like standing on that pile of demons shooting down into it. You want that kind of iconic, firing into the masses as they come for you.
I love that.
Oh, speaking of masses,
Yeah.
slightly big guy.
Watch your backs.
I don't need a
The
head.
design of the butcher is really interesting because if you run away and get too far, he will charge you, and obviously if you stay too close to him, you will get cut to pieces. So you have to kind of toe this weird balance of staying at a kind of mid-range, so you can deal constant damage without going too far away or too close.
You gotta kite him in a very specific way.
Yeah.
I mean, we just ate through him, but whenever I've done this through on my own, it's absolutely terrifying force as soon as the butcher appears.
I think that's one of his strengths as well. It's kind of like a psychological, oh my god, what's like
he's a
he
shock
kind
trooper.
of scatters the party as well.
Yeah.
Anything that like forces you to move around is always a good sort of point of stress for the players, because you don't really want players to be able to just to sit back and sort of hold down mouse one.
Yeah.
They need to kind of always feel that slight sense of pressure without it being overwhelming.
I think the Suiciders do a good job of that as well. You can't, like, it's fine you just standing up, like we are there up on the roof shooting down at things, but as soon as 4 Suiciders start running at you, you've got to...
Well, it's very much the kind of secret sauce of the design is kind of which targets do you shoot in which order. Because you don't want to shoot a Suicider too early, you want to wait till they're kind of right in the middle of a group of zombies to really get, the most bang for your buck, as it were.
Yeah.
And likewise, the butchers are quite slow when they're first arriving, and so you can kind of ignore them for a little bit up until they get within that charge range, at which point they then become a major problem. So it's always fun ways of just kind of mixing up that forward and go, okay, do the players want to stay still? Do they want to be moving? Just providing choice to you and allowing you to make the wrong decision and pay the consequences for that.
I mean, we'll get to it later on in the mission, but there's a few parts later on in this level that they really force you into smaller areas, and you're having to hold off from the horde in quite a small space, and I think it just switches up your expectations of
the contrast in the first half of the level and the second half of the level really is, it's kind of like it's just very kind of breakneck, and it's very fun to go from Tunnel Error, which is this wide expansive space, and then Abaddon Asylum for the first half, where it's never mind, where it's look at all these open fields and all these great big buildings, and then the second half it's oh god, corridors, what are these?
Yeah.
I think it's always been about giving each encounter an identity, so both design and art. Like we want players to go, oh yeah, this was the battle where you're in that castle that's been repaired and there's that big like mulching machine in the middle, and we want players to kind of remember that kind of feeling.
And all the blood zombies.
Exactly, yeah.
It
That's
always takes me back to like the old horror films where it's like Dawn of the Dead. It's like, oh, do you remember that scene? Which one? Oh, the one where the head flies out the fridge. And that does play into Zombie Army quite nicely because it is very much those pulpy, over the top. Oh, do you remember that bit where the giant guy with the buzzsaw and the skull hat comes through the door? Like, oh yeah, I remember that bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and despite this being like an open world area, it does funnel you into those. There's 5 small kind of encounters, isn't there? That even though it's one large area, and they've all got their own little.
Yeah, they have their own identity and their own story.
Yeah.
Another interesting thing from a design perspective, where your instinct is to go, okay, we throw in more enemy types and really kind of get a good variety in the fights, but then what ends up happening is they all end up feeling the same. And so it's counterintuitive, but having less enemies in a single fight, and so having one fight being just creepers and the butcher, and the next one being just grenadiers and a flamer, it makes the fights feel that much more distinctive when you're then going back and remembering them and encountering them.
Interesting.
So,
yeah, I can see that.
When you're playing the fight over, the same one over and over again, you go, oh, it'd be great to just add in some grenadiers or something to it, but then you need to remember that the level's being absorbed as a whole. Players go through all 5 fights and then the second half of the level.
Yeah,
They're not just playing it the way that we do as designers, just
very easy to get
repeating
kind of
one,
like
getting it feeling perfect.
very easy to get mentally boxed in, as it were.
I'm going to drop some mines at the foot of these stairs.
Oh, thinking ahead.
It's the first time I've picked up some grenades and mines in this mission, yeah. So I'm gonna use them.
That's a good point. Do I have any?
I just use my bare hands.
Pick up this trench.
Problem is, as well as avoiding doing that chain reaction where it goes all the way up the stairs and around.
Yeah.
Blows us up. I'm going to place one in this gate. That's a good idea. Alright, should we kick off this?
Oh, I thought we did.
Let's do it. No. Need to
I'm coming.
pull the trigger.
Come on, Kenneth.
Yep.
There we go. So yeah, we put a butcher here because it tied in quite nicely to kind of farm theme, a little bit Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, I love this. Look at them coming out of the fog there.
Yeah.
So good.
And while you guys were being, prepared Boy Scouts and getting ready, I had to run in and get ammo because I forgot that bullet got indeed a thing. My strategy of using my bare hands is not working in my favour.
Oh no.
Get bare hands in the game.
Yeah, that's the DLC weapon.
Oh, he's a big boy.
Yeah, I'm not following my own advice and just standing next to the butcher.
Just don't want to be alone, do you?
Oh.
There's a resistance zombie there.
Yeah, that was one particular fun thing working on this project, was just how open Rebellion were to kind of different zombie types and ideas that we just kind of, pitched them over a, pitch on a Monday, kind of have a go, put it together on a Tuesday, and then...
So is that a specific zombie type that you added to the game for this DLC?
Yeah, so for this level in particular, there's a surprise coming later down the line, but the resistance zombies we've been running about, you see a lot of them in hoods. They came over from Alpine Blitz because the Zeppelin dropped gas that turned the resistance into zombies very sadly. So we needed something to it didn't make sense for them to turn into zombies wearing Nazi uniforms, so we quite quickly had to put together some very unhappy looking resistance members.
Yet again.
Yeah, have we got any? Yeah, we've got some medkits.
Oh yeah,
up
there's
here.
bandages up here.
Oh!
There's a dreamer here.
Is this
Wandered on in.
Yeah.
Look, the village.
perhaps these
Nice.
Yeah.
could it
He did.
Following you, Tom.
Luckily we have these big glowing tendrils to lead us.
Yeah.
They're very easy to miss, Joe.
Because I mean that's a good point actually, because I mean obviously in this game there's no mini-map. You have objective icons, but you don't really want to be just sort of wandering around following an icon on the HUD. You want to be a bit more engaged in the world that you're exploring.
It's not even there's no mini-map, there's no kind of normal map either. Yeah, it's very much trusting the players to kind of follow the hints we give.
Exactly, and it also helps people feel like they've got a bit more agency and purpose. Like, you know, I followed the tendrils to figure out where to go rather than just following an icon on the HUD.
Yeah, we were very much trying to avoid what we called psychic HUD syndrome, where the kind of HUD and UI knew what you were doing before you did.
Right.
So, yeah, very much kind of allowing the players to kind of discover the objectives and having the...
And I think that was another one of the challenges, wasn't it, Tom, where because in the previous levels and in the main game, because they were in these closed spaces, it was much easier to sort of signpost where the players need to go with actual signs and, you know, blood trails and anything else, whereas in this we needed to come up with a bit more intuitive ways. And I loved what we did in Terminal Error with the big pipes. That was very, very cool.
Yes.
This one's maybe a little less subtle, but very appropriate.
Yeah, I think they're... yeah, it's not subtle, the big tendrils in the sky, but also... they don't. You still have to find your way there, don't you? And
yeah, I don't find myself questioning them. They fit with the world and the aesthetic that we've got.
Yeah,
For sure.
It's not a subtle game, for sure.
I suppose one challenge we haven't spoken about with this level is I think this one was really the first one that we made when we were fully in lockdown and stuff. And the team had gone remote for it.
Was it?
We'd had a little bit with season 2.
Yeah, it was the back end of the season 2 work. When that started.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was interesting because, I mean, I always think of making games as a kind of group activity. So us and Radical Forge and Rebellion,
all adjusting.
Kind of,
this new world.
It was a new world, a strange new world.
Because yeah, one issue we ran into was, of course, you know, kind of getting voice actors and things in was very difficult. So luckily, a lot of it is done kind of internally by Rebellion's team, which obviously was a lifesaver. It was quite the getting these levels up and running and the voice acting all together and having it all working and kind of coming in on time was obviously quite a challenge with the situation at the time.
Don't worry, Matt, I'm coming.
Yeah, I just realised I was,
I'll let you do
looking
this
like,
on your
where
own.
is this? Where is this? It's down in the
Oh,
basement.
you're after the basement one.
Yeah.
Definitely no surprises waiting for you outside.
Oh no. I'm just admiring all the I was going to say graffiti, but it's not graffiti, is it? All the stuff written on the walls in blood, and there's a lot of that to come, isn't there? When we get to the asylum.
A little bit.
I always want to do an Easter egg somewhere of just a flamer going around, very delicately lighting the candles.
Yes. I want to
Just
see
using
someone
the
writing
pipe
these
like
messages on the wall.
flame
Yeah,
for-
just
yeah.
being a bit artistic. Yeah. I'm just the arty zombie.
Kind of zombie equivalent to Banksy. Joe having fun in the blood fountain?
Accidentally used my Thor's hammer rather than jumping.
I've done that a couple of times.
I mean, doing too much sniper.
Oh, I love that they come out the fountain.
Yeah, again, these the blood zombies were made specially for this level as well. I figured if we're going so much, you know, leaning into the blood, we might as well start theming some of the zombies around it.
Of course.
These guys are a natural fit. I guess the evolution of them we have in the later levels is the lava zombies in Ragnarok. They're a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of create an area of denial where you can't stand where they shoot. You get the flaming
Yeah.
sections of ground.
So many zombies.
Just one or two.
I love the kind of almost emotional peaks and troughs you get with the heavy gunner elites, because on the one hand it's like, oh god, it's a heavy gunner, but then once you kill them, like, yes, I now am rewarded with this giant machine gun.
Yeah,
that
it's
I
a
can
huge
mow
reward.
down zombies with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Someone just saved my life. Thank you.
Yeah, you have to get very creative with how we used different assets in these levels. So, for example, rather than having 15 different models of tree, you'd kind of use 2 or 3 and just rotate them and scale them and place them differently to try and kind of hide the reuse.
So does that save a lot of like performance?
It's memory, really, especially for consoles. One really fun anecdote that I always say is when we were working on Alpine Blitz, which was probably one of our most ambitious levels. It was to the point where I was removing one of two shoes, so we had a left shoe and a right shoe on the floor outside one of the houses, and I was removing the left shoe and copying the right shoe and like scaling it inverse so it was flipped.
Yeah.
Because like removing the left shoe model saved sort of, I don't know, 15 kilobytes or something of memory that at that time was very, very precious.
Wow.
Yeah,
So it was
Twitch
very
guys,
specific.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. We had to be very brutal with what we could keep.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, that's really getting down into it, isn't it? When you're cloning a shoe. Wow.
But the upside is you can have such a huge, sort of varied environment where every encounter feels like you're in a unique area that you haven't seen before. Even if you're using assets that people have seen before, you can make it feel completely different.
I guess, yeah, part of the reason why is, again, because the players are running around with a literal scope, and so you have to be able to have all these areas essentially loaded in all of the time. You can't do things that a lot of games do.
Yeah, I mean,
where
you
can dynamically load in parts of the levels.
I believe you can get like a 16 times scope.
Yeah.
So that's another thing is, you know, the player equips a 16 times scope and looks outside your level. Having like really blocky looking mountains and trees, it's just not really going to cut it.
Yeah, I guess that's a challenge that a lot of games don't have. That's pretty unique to this and Sniper.
Exactly, yeah.
Ooh, lordy.
Wow. The welcoming party. Whoa.
I feel like there was an Easter egg in one of these windows. I remember Tranta doing
I
something.
believe there's
like one of-
mannequins on top of this castle gate.
Yeah, or like a face or something in one of the windows.
Oh, I want to find it
There
now.
are many, many Easter eggs.
Yeah, I don't have to go for it, sadly.
Ah, look at the little smiley face.
Yeah, there's a few of them dotted around.
Well done, chaps. We made it through the first episode.
Lovely. Into the asylum.
Once you enter the asylum, I'll have
Yeah,
no
it's
way
way
to
in
get
it.
back up to you. We know the Baron
This
is
mask that you're wearing, Tom.
in this compromised state.
Yes.
Absolutely terrifying.
Careful.
Just spin round and there's a doll. It's a huge doll.
The empty, soulless eyes just staring into the void. Yeah.
Dead eyes, lifeless eyes.
Cold eyes. Yeah.
Ready to rock?
Yeah. Got my... Is there any grenades or mines anywhere that I can grab?
I've harvested some.
I think they've been hoovered up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you taken them all? Okay. that's
Can't
fine.
imagine who's stolen them.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, I mean, I just don't know where they are, so.
I'll find
I was
some
about
along
to
the
comment
way.
on the radio. That was a fun little thing that we did specifically for our levels as well. Having all the radios kind of play the jingly tune backwards, just to get a little bit more sense of unease.
Concentrate.
I had to fight really hard to get these zombies kind of shooting or attacking you through the fences as well.
Really?
Because obviously every zombie comes with a cost. It says, oh no, we've got 30 zombies just sitting here on either side of the gate. So the players just don't kill them. In reality, everyone takes them out every time.
Yeah.
Didn't turn out to be too much of a problem.
So the last time I ran through this mission, I was purposely doing it to grab some screenshots using the photo mode.
Yeah.
And this second half of this mission is just such a joy for photo mode. There's so many vistas and like just this view as you start coming towards the asylum,
Yeah.
and then once you get in it and you're in the smaller areas and it's full Silent Hill.
We spent a lot of time kind of compositing this first view, and that's something that we kind of did in all of our levels. Really, was thinking about what does the player see when they go into this area.
Sure.
I love the zombies tumbling off. Really drawing
Exactly, yeah, it's all about that kind of spectacle of making the player stop and go, oh my gosh, look at that, that's so cool. And also it kind of serves a design purpose as well, because you can see straight away there's a big clock tower with a crazy portal above it. You kind of instinctively know that's probably where I'm supposed to go.
Yeah.
There's very few times you get lost and you don't know what you're supposed to be heading towards, and I guess that's the intention, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think even if you do get lost, you will discover something. Like, for example, if you wander off the track completely and go up there to the left where Tom is. I believe there's a collectible and a couple of Easter eggs up
There
there.
might be, yeah.
Extend as far as the perimeter of the asylum.
And what we really wanted to do with the asylum is, because it's this kind of second act, it's almost like you want the player to feel like they're entering a completely different level almost. So the atmospherics change. We did a lot of work to try and kind of make the air feel a lot kind of more dense and thick, and like you were saying, Silent Hill, it's exactly that.
Yeah, it's a hugely different feel. It feels like a payoff as well to me. When I first played this mission, I was, you know, it's the Asylum DLC. You know, you come into it wanting to explore a zombified asylum, and getting that is in the second half of the DLC is like felt like a real payoff.
Exactly, yeah, and it's that sense of escalation as well. We were always kind of doing one bit even more insane than the last thing we just did. Like with every DLC, we were trying to kind of ramp up that sense of kind of ridiculous escalation. Like there's always a bigger threat, there's always a crazier thing.
The design team had become a little bit more comfortable with kind of the tools and stuff, so we're allowed to start flexing our muscles, kind of creating those custom AI types and the new skins and things. Oh, okay, here's a fun story. The wheelchairs. Do you remember the wheelchairs, Joe? So we had no wheelchairs, and I wanted one for our asylum. The problem is, obviously no models for one in Sniper Elite or Zombie Army, so we had to kind of kit bash one together. And looking at this thing, I think it was a combination of a bicycle. So if you look very carefully at the foot pedals, you saw, well, the footrests, they're literally pedals off a bicycle. With the back wheels are from the same bicycle. The armrests are, I think it's a leather roll. The front wheels are off a kind of little metal trolley. It's a complete kind of Frankenstein monster.
That's
a little
brilliant.
bit. But yeah,
It
again,
totally
with the amount
works.
of attention players pay to it, yeah, you don't question it.
No, and hugely important for the tone of an asylum stage.
Yeah.
Like you need those. That's...
Because the level could have not had one, but it just wouldn't be the same.
No.
So it's those extra, those things are quite hard to justify while you're doing them, but then in hindsight you go, oh, yeah, it really does work having it. So of course then later we had the zombies in the wheelchairs and kind of stepping out of them as you approach them. I think the first one that does that we're coming up to in this corridor when we go through the door, so you'll have to have a gander at it before we behead him.
Yeah, do you guys remember when we were making Damnation Valley and we were thinking, well, things aren't possibly going to get any more crazy than this, and then it was
of course.
a meat zeppelin, and then you go inside the meat zeppelin.
Yeah. But there we go, right at the end. Have a gander. We make our way down the
I
corridor.
could just see the little glowing eyes coming out of the fog. I love this first corridor. It's going in here, and like the tone just instantly changes.
Yeah.
From huge open space with sorts of different areas you can go to just this like claustrophobic.
It's a very kind of almost like a stereotypical sort of horror environment of a insane asylum sort of gone wrong.
Yeah.
But there's always like the world of Zombie Army kind of gives you that extra little bit of flavour just to add a little bit of interest to things. That kind of sense of the occult that this game does really well.
Somewhat. I think we got him. Yeah, on harder difficulties, this section of the level is kind of nail-biting because, the blind screamers really give you trouble if you're not prepared for them. So just hearing that kind of squeaking coming around a corner.
Yeah, I straight up just avoided one the last time I did this mission. I just creeped around it, and because I was on my own. Whoa! Don't go through that door.
In some of the cells, we've got some zombies that are just sort of like munching and having a nice time, and then they get up and you see they're resistant zombies. And again, it weaves that narrative of, how long has this place been like this? What have they used it for? How have they utilised the space? And it just paints that even ever so more grim picture.
Capturing the locals.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Cool.
We got a Frankenstein
zombie.
zombie. Yeah.
Love that.
A nice reference to... is it Hellraiser? I feel like it is.
That's the one.
I think that was Crit. If I remember correctly.
We want to know who did this.
That's the other great thing. I mean, anyone who has any interest in horror movies will have a field day with all the Easter eggs in
Yeah,
this game.
of course.
And nearly every single screenshot you can take could be the front artwork of a metal album as well.
Yeah. I was just about to say this red window here. I had a great time getting some screenshots using this red light to like illuminate my character. Very good for photo mode. That specific window.
I love the framing of the moon with the kind of clock tower thing.
Oh, it's so good.
You got to have some god rays in there.
Yeah,
Excuse me. Excuse
or
me.
hell rays in this case. That was always a fun bit of feedback as well. Could we just make the moon a bit bigger? Just get,
Just more moon.
push it
A
as
bit
far
more
as we
moon.
possibly can. Yeah.
Yeah, now in other games we've worked on, I genuinely have to look at reference for how big the moon actually is.
Yeah.
Because I just don't know. In my head it's still huge.
So coming up is one of the the first kind of real custom skinned enemies we put together for the game, which is quite fun. I guess I'll summon him along.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Again, leading into the Baron stuff with the bats. There he is.
Oh, yeah.
Great fun putting this guy together.
Even the situation's bad. Ooh. Like even little things like the placement of this ammo crate here, so I've not got any ammo. I'm frankly trying to give my gun
Yeah,
ammo, but I just see them
exposing
pouring
yourself.
out of that door, coming closer and closer.
Yeah.
These are very much kind of tutorializing the fight you've got towards the end of the game. It's quite a similar kind of gameplay space to the Cathedral, just a lot more, open and got places to run to.
Yeah, you're dead right. Like, knowing what's coming, this is just like a slightly more open version.
Yeah. Well, you've got snipers here that make it a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
Although that's another one kind of we wanted to make sure the challenges really challenged the hardcore players, and this one's a very difficult one. We've got, I think it's 4 snipers in midair.
Oh, right, yeah.
Got to wait for them to jump and then take them out as they're going.
Nice.
And that's part of the fun formula of Sniper is sometimes it's very blatantly telegraphed where the enemies are coming from, and that's not really where the challenge is. The challenge is making sure you're getting your attention on there, but then also divert your attention to things like snipers, and not getting too bogged down with one section of enemies.
Speaking of enemies, I don't know if Matt will have played this section or not. It's one that people
Oh
sadly
yeah,
miss
we've got
quite
to
often.
we've got to save something, don't we?
Let him go, have a little explore. Why don't you check out the
Okay.
room to your left, just through that door over there.
Through here.
Yeah.
Get back, you
Oh.
dead bastards!
The mannequins.
The mannequins, yeah.
Yeah.
Smashed up door. Oh. Oh, dear. They've all come to life.
Yeah.
Has that locked the door behind me as well?
It has locked the door. You're gonna have to deal with those on your own.
See you later, Matt.
Yeah.
You monsters.
Thank you for tuning in, guys.
I'll, yeah.
Never seen come again.
That was another one where kind of the campaign had been building up these mannequins overall. Once you got a mannequin in the game, everyone,
Totally.
them as designers and artists.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So really wanted to find a way to pay it off, and kind of what better place than the asylum.
Oh, it's amazing. They're horrid. Oh, there's one trying to get through the smashed door here. There's so many.
All the screams as well, and the kind
Yeah.
of crying when you shoot them.
I'll come and help.
They're also, I think they're the only enemy in the game where you can shoot their head off and they'll just keep on
Yeah,
coming
I
at you.
just realised that.
They hunt.
Yeah.
So this room's
Oh,
totally
dear.
optional.
Yeah, this is your heroic moment.
I like how
I
the
take it you didn't
NPC has a voice line about how she's been living off moss for weeks, and then you go into her room and there's actually a little moss texture decal on the wall. That's
Oh,
Oh,
so
yeah.
nice.
Oh, lovely.
I think our artists had a lot of fun with that kind of super attention to detail, that kind of narrative storytelling, which I think is probably one of the most fun parts of
Yeah.
being an artist. I think is like, here's a room, here's a loose story, come up with something creative that makes a player stop and sort of laugh or chuckle themselves or go, oh, okay, I understand that story now. I understand what's happened here.
That's very cool.
But there's a particular one in this next section that are about to come through. It's, again, it's those ones where they're quite obvious, but they're also very easy to miss when you're actually kind of developing the level. Going, okay, let's take the time to go and set up a little kind of skeleton in the psychiatric chair next to the sofa with the papers in his hand.
Ooh.
Oh dear. I need a med kit.
I can sort you out.
Oh, and the paper is actually a collectible as well.
Yep.
Brilliant.
Just to draw that extra attention to it, 'cause it's quite a little dark area.
Thank you very much.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah, just a fun little moment we put in.
Yeah, that's cool. Also, I love the graffiti on the wall here that says "shh," because the
Blind screamer coming
yeah, really good.
Then we've got our little kind of, hi, I'm the lead game, kind of everyone introduce yourselves, little circle.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah, just subtle things that most players will probably just run past and kind of ignore, but it's anyone who is paying attention and stuff kind of hopefully gets the sense that we care about the environments we're making and that there is a story and it all does have meaning in one way or another.
It's the guys taking the screenshots who'll see this stuff and be like, yeah, this will look wicked, this looks up.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, this was just a treat for photo mode. This whole area just feels so claustrophobic after the first part of the mission.
Yeah, on the harder difficulties, this place is not fun to be running around.
I think the finale fight that we're coming up to shortly is probably the hardest fight, like one of the hardest. It's got to be one of the hardest ones we did.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I would
incredibly
agree.
difficult.
I think the cable car ride in Dead Zeppelin might take it, but yeah, it's...
Oh, that's true.
Well, I think they're difficult for different reasons.
He's walking.
He's got friends.
More horns. Add more horns.
Yep.
Whoa, there are big guys everywhere.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm slightly on fire.
Oh, I've run out of shotgun shells.
There he goes. He's down.
Everything hurts.
Oh, everything's on fire.
I like that it's flamers, which are probably like the worst enemy to encounter in this
Yeah.
really narrow space.
Yeah,
Very
feels
cruel.
Very intentional. Very cruel. Very
I
intentional.
think sometimes you do just have to sort of try and kill the player.
Well, that's very much kind of what the armored elites were kind of signaling, because we want to go, okay, how can we create this sense that it's kind of the DLCs are leveling up a bit compared to the main campaign, and that's it's kind of the next kind of logical choice. They've managed to armor up the giants. Why wouldn't they do it to their big scary boys? And that, of
You
course,
said it
then gave us quite a nice tool to then use for the later levels in Ragnarok and things.
I think you said it earlier, Tom, where at this point we needed to account for the fact that most players who were jumping into this content had likely rinsed the game several times and were kitted out to the nines. So
Yeah, you got your fully automatic headshot rifle that's armor piercing and all that jazz.
the QA team was saying to us this was our favourite cutscene. But yeah, it is.
Oh, we're about to see.
That's the baby boy.
Oh, yeah, go on, Joe. You need to introduce this area.
I think I'll let the cutscene do that. Are we going to see the cutscene?
No, not yet. That's at the end. I'm talking about the.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So Baron Umbra.
We've kept it very subtle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Like it's one of the issues that we found was it's very easy to say, oh, let's just cover everything in gore and guts and intestines and blood.
Really held back.
And you do have to do that, but only you have to do it in a controlled way. You have to kind of gore in a controlled way.
Yeah.
Because what we found is if we made the entire asylum sort of covered in blood and guts, after about 10 or 15 minutes, you'd sort of just lose interest, and you wouldn't really feel a sense of you wouldn't feel like, oh, that's cool, that's a gross cool thing I've seen, because it's just everywhere, and you just lose interest in it. So we kind of had this idea of the closer you get towards the Baron, the more his kind of fleshy tendrils sort of start to permeate through the level. So it's that sense of escalation. The closer and closer you get to him, until you see him in all his wonderful glory. And I think there was actually a sense of like, we wanted to get a little bit of humor, because he's kind of built up as this incredible, almost like godlike figure with all this power that's been imprisoned in this cathedral. And then you see him and he kind of looks a little bit pathetic, but not too pathetic. So there was a really interesting balance there, I think.
You wouldn't want to be in his, or lack of, shoes, I suppose.
Yeah. He's wearing his little monocle as well.
I like also
a really nice touch.
That's true. That from a distance, you can't really see that it's kind of bodies surrounding him, but then as you get closer, you realise, oh, these are all kind of corpses reaching up.
Yeah, the amount of
Blended
detail
quite
in
well.
this section. It's crazy.
Yeah, this was senior artist Mr. John Tranter worked on the sculpt for this guy, and he's come out really well. I mean, you can see he's got like a belly that's kind of breathing, and it's very grotesque, but it's the fact that he has his monocle on at the same time that kind of balances it out a little bit.
Love it.
It's kind of tasteful gore, I think.
He does have a Grinch-like, a very small heart as well. 'Cause he's not.
It's tiny.
Yeah. Okay, Kenny, should we place
Let's
the
do it.
skull?
Yes, we bloody should.
You have encountered blood fountains before, no doubt. Built
Oh, love this.
heights of my
Just all the zombies falling in.
Yeah.
My flamethrower is becoming very handy.
We did the zombies falling out of windows and off balconies thing like as much as humanly possible, because it's entertaining, and it also kind of draws your eye to certain things that we want the players to look at as well.
Yes.
The one character you wouldn't want to face in this room.
Yeah.
And of course, the one that we send your way.
Yeah, this is obviously what was kind of hinting at earlier about the smaller spaces and the...
I wouldn't stand under that chandelier, guys.
And this is just like an exercise in sprinting around, trying to lead the enemies around.
Whoa. I love how frantic this fight gets, just sprinting around columns.
I love that you instinctively work your way back towards this part of the chapel, and it's just all four of you in that last stand, kind of very, very cool.
Oh,
Oh dear. Oh, this is not going well.
I've hit the deck.
I'd like to point out as well that this is on easy, so if we die, it's very embarrassing.
Thank you, I'm up. Right, I've got to start using some of my grenades now. I've been saving them the entire mission.
Give an electric punch. There we go. That did nothing.
I've got a flamethrower that I've dropped.
I brought you into this world. I can take you out of it.
Oh, there's just nowhere to run. I try and run away, and you turn the corner and there's 20 more zombies. Yes!
There he goes. Down he is.
Oh, satisfying.
Yeah. Go on then,
Love it.
Matt. We'll give you the honours.
Can I do it? I'm gonna tear out the heart. A tiny heart.
Good determination in your eyes.
Yes.
This was a lot of different effects and things to merge together as well to kind of pull it off. Quite a complicated sequence of shots to get right.
And then obviously this leads right into the intro of the next DLC. Was that like completely planned out already? Like how far ahead were you when you're designing that?
Yeah, I'd say we knew we were taking you down to Hell, but I'd say Hell was probably about a third through development at that point. Maybe halfway, but yeah, it's definitely a fun cliffhanger to set up. get the players to wait a month before seeing how that all paid off. But yeah, that was Abaddon Asylum. Yeah.
Thanks so much for joining me to play through all
Our
that.
pleasure.
It was a ton of fun.
Yeah,
It's been nice to revisit it after,
I like the bow.
after a year or so.
It's so surreal that it's been this long already.
Yeah, it's amazing what you remember when you start sort of delving into like weirdly specific things, and you think, oh yeah, I remember that. I remember placing that plant pot there, and I remember that bug we had with this, and I remember the issue we had with that, and
Yeah. But I just say a huge thanks, of course, to all the team at Rebellion for assisting us throughout, kind of co-development on this project, and of course the guys at Radical Forge.
And our own guys.
And
Absolutely.
yeah, it's just it's been awesome fun working on this series, and can't wait to see what comes next for the world of Zombie Army.
Well, I would dare say that coming next for us would be we might look into Return to Hell when the 1 year anniversary of that is creeping up. So maybe we get together and do this again.
Exciting times. Sounds like a plan.
do the 2 year of Damnation Valley.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It would have been nice to have started with the first one, but unfortunately we've missed all those dates. And I wasn't waiting another 6 months to start doing these videos. So we'll start here. But yeah, let's maybe get together again and do Return to Hell when that's the 1 year anniversary. But Tom, Kenny, and Joe, thank you so much.
Thank you, mate.
Golden.
And thanks for your insight, and I'll see you soon.
No worries. Take it easy.